Okay, so yesterday we started talking about containers and the concept of software containerization, right? And the most famous containerization tool is called Docker. So we're gonna start working with it today. Yesterday we just introduced the entire process in general. Okay, so the process would be uh, to have start. So this would be your code. Wait. So if this is your folder with your application, with your code, with everything the application needs, okay, you start with running the build command in order to create the container image, and then you can run the application within the container if you have the container image locally. So if you are in the same computer that you built the image on, you can run it right away. If you want to share it with someone else, with you can push it to a registry, which is pretty much a database of container images. And then if someone else or another time or another machine you want to use this application, you just pull the image and run it. So you don't have to worry about the dependencies. You don't have to worry about installing libraries or any other dependencies. Everything is already encapsulated in that container. Okay, so let's see how does that work. We're going to start with the Hello World container that is available through Docker. Now, first of all, in order to run the container, we need the engine installed locally. And we're gonna get a container image already existing, like available for public. But before we can pull it or we can run it, we need the Docker engine itself to be installed. Now, depending on your system, the Docker engine in itself was built to run on Linux. So if you are on a Linux system, you run the engine right away. Yeah, I mean you install the engine right away. If you are on a Mac or a Windows, you're gonna need a virtual machine, a Linux virtual machine. Okay, but that's just for the installation step. After it is installed, there is no difference between the different platforms. So it would look like this is the Linux machine, like on Google Cloud. Okay, so we just run the command docker, and then here, this is on a Windows machine. That's exactly the same. Now here, when you install the runtime engine, you're installing two components. There is a front end or a client component that is this command is the front end component. It is a command line, but it's still a user interface. That's how we as a user of Docker engine, we can send commands to it. Now this front end, this command line tool takes our command and send it to a server. So when we install the Docker engine, there are two components. There is a server and there is a client, or there is a front end and a back end. Now that server is called daemon. That's how the background operations of processes are called in Linux systems. Okay, so it's pretty much a server in the background. Okay, that's the daemon. Now, when we say Docker, this is the front end. Now, it doesn't matter whether what is behind it is a Linux or is a Windows or is a Mac, it doesn't matter. Okay, so once the installation is done, everything is the same. All right, now how do we install it? You can go to this Docker website and install a version that is suitable to your system. But it's not just the Docker itself. Now, if you are installing on Windows, you need to install Docker Desktop. That is the Docker engine and the virtual machine. Okay, and if you are on a Linux, you just install the Docker engine. So this is the manual page. If you go there, so this is like the installation guide. I think it's probably opened in the background. All right, so here, if you are on a Linux machine, you just need to find the proper Linux flavor that you're working with to find out how to install it there. But if you are on Windows or a Mac, there is a Docker desktop, and then here is, for example, for Windows, I would go to install a Docker desktop and then go for Windows to see what are the requirements and what are the steps to install it. So here there are multiple steps and there are prerequisites. Okay, there are prerequisites for installation. So you need to make sure that the requirements of the system are valid. So for example, on Windows, you need the WSL backend. Okay, so it's pretty much a small version of Linux that is installed on Windows. Now, how to install it? You need to go to this page here, and it will give you the instructions on how to install it. So WSL install would install it. If it doesn't, there might be a default version. Okay, if this didn't install anything, they say that it would open it will give you a help message, but when I tried it, actually it didn't do anything. It just kept running and didn't give me any feedback. So sometimes the list online works, sometimes it doesn't. I keep running, if I keep trying to run the command, I don't get any response, I would just remove the WSL, okay, and then reinstall it from the beginning. All right, and so the requirements need to happen first. So make sure that your system meets the requirements, and then install Docker afterwards. Okay, and once you install it, it would look like something like this. Okay, so there you go. It's just a little slow. And if it's running, then it should ask you, the first time it should ask you to sign in. I'll show you sign in with what. Okay, you need like an account. So I use my Docker Hub account. Okay, so this is how it looked like if it was running. And if you open here beside, you can see that it is running. Okay, so you need it to be running before you can execute any of the commands. All right. Okay, so I have it installed and running. Now I can do whatever I want. Now there is a registry that is available for public that is called the Docker Hub. Now Docker is the company that provides the Docker engine. Docker Hub is another product of the same company. So they are not linked. They can be used together, but they are not linked. They are two different products. You have Docker engine that is installed, okay? And then Docker Hub is just a registry that is available for public. Okay, now if you go there, you go to explore. Now you need to create an account. I already have an account and it's available for free. As long as all your repository, whatever you publish there is gonna be public too. You can have it for private. If you want to have private, like publish your containers privately, you have to pay. Okay, but the free account gives you access to a whole lot of container images that are made for public. Now you see almost every major software company has its product containerized and available for free on Docker Hub. So if you keep scrolling, you will see anything you can recognize, you will see there. Even there is a container for a registry. If you want to have your own registry, now Docker Hub is a registry, right? If you want to have your own registry, there's a container image for a registry software. Yeah, you can have your own server there. Okay, and everything you can think of, all databases, not languages, everything you can think of, PHP is a language. It's very popular, and you can see in billions, the downloads are in billions. You see how popular it is. It makes the shipment and the installation and handling of software way easier. Like if you have heard about something called Oracle, it's a database management system. Like the installation of Oracle was a nightmare. Now it's just the container image. You just get the container and run it in a click. It makes like handling the software way easier. Now there is something called Hello World container that is meant for people who are starting in the field or the area to experience working with containers. Okay. Now, how do we get it? Now it is published on the registry. Now, how do we download it and access it? You need to access the command pull. Okay. So Docker, this is the front end, right? And then the command to download is pull, and then the name of the container, the name of the container image. Now, actually, there are more components than just the name that need to be sent in order to get the correct container image. But a lot of these components are set by default. Now, if I copy this command and I try to access it, so I'm just gonna open a command line. I know I have installed my Docker on the Docker runtime engine. I can always test it. Okay, so it is installed. Now I can try to pull that hello world and see what happens. So I'm downloading that hello world container image from the registry. All right, so now it is pulled. Now see what we can see here. This is the actual detailed specification of the container image that we want to download. But here, the first component here is the address of the registry, and Docker Hub, the address of Docker Hub is docker.io. Okay, if you don't specify an address for a registry, docker.io is the default. Now, library is a repository inside the docker.hub, Docker Hub, that is available for public. Now, it is available for public only for read. You cannot write to it. So if you don't specify repository, by default, it's library. Okay. Now, we did specify the container name, right? The container image name. But we didn't specify this latest after the column. So after the column, this is called a tag, and that specifies which version. So you can have multiple versions of the same container image. You can just specify it with the tag after the column. Yes. How do you specify the address? Yeah, just like this, you can just take it like this and replace the name. It is, I mean, with the exact same format. So the registry first, the repository slash the repository slash the name of the image, column, the tag. The location on the actual machine. So that's a location on the registry. So docker.io is that hub.docker.com. Okay. And then library is just the place that they make all the public images available. Okay.